It was a chilly spring evening in Fairview, a quiet suburban town where nothing truly bad ever seemed to happen. Daniel and Laura Thompson, a married couple in their 30s, decided to host a small dinner gathering for a few close friends. Inside their home, the atmosphere was warm and inviting. A dining table was set with candles, glasses of red wine reflecting the flicker of the flames. Laughter filled the room, the type of casual, unguarded joy that only exists among people who feel completely safe. For the Thompsons, it was the picture of normalcy. The sound of forks clinking on plates, the faint jazz music playing softly in the background, the comfort of familiar faces. But among them was one face that wasn't so familiar, a man whose presence, though polite, didn't quite belong. The man had been introduced casually. "This is Mark, a friend of a friend. Hope you don't mind if he joins." Daniel and Laura, never ones to turn away a guest, welcomed him warmly. Mark was quiet at first, but attentive. He nodded at stories, smiled at jokes, and seemed perfectly ordinary. Still, there was something in the way his eyes scanned the room that felt off. While the others laughed, Mark's gaze often drifted to the hallway, the staircase, the back door. He asked polite questions. "Lovely house? How long have you lived here? Seems like a safe neighborhood, right? Do you lock all the doors at night?" Each question seemed harmless, disguised under charm, but for those paying closer attention, they were the kinds of questions you'd expect from someone studying, not socializing. As the evening wore on, subtle red flags appeared. Mark excused himself to use the bathroom. 15 minutes passed before he returned. When Laura glanced toward the hallway, she noticed he wasn't coming from the bathroom at all, but from near the back of the house. Later, when she asked if he had trouble finding his way, he chuckled nervously and said, "Yeah, I think I got turned around." Big house, easy to get lost, Daniel noticed too. Mark's plate remained mostly untouched, but his wine glass was never empty. He wasn't there for food, he was there for information. Still, no one said anything. After all, what harm could come from one strange guest at an otherwise harmless dinner? By midnight, the party ended. Coats were gathered, hugs exchanged, laughter carried into the cool suburban air. The guests walked down the quiet street, one by one disappearing into the night. Inside, Daniel and Laura cleared the dishes, rinsed the glasses, and talked about how nice it was to have company. Laura mentioned that Mark seemed a little odd, but Daniel brushed it off. "People were quirky," he said. "Maybe he was just shy." They checked the doors, turned off the lights, and headed upstairs. The house fell silent, but what they didn't know was that Mark hadn't truly left with the others. Around 3 a.m., Laura stirred awake. At first, she thought she was dreaming, but then she heard it again, the faint sound of movement downstairs, a floorboard creaking, the shuffle of feet. She nudged Daniel awake, whispering that someone was in the house. He dismissed it as the cat until they remembered they didn't have a cat. With his heart pounding, Daniel grabbed a flashlight from the nightstand. They crept down the stairs, each step deliberate, every shadow suddenly threatening. The living room was dimly lit by the street lamp outside. That's when they saw it. The back door was cracked open. Papers from a drawer lay scattered on the floor, and in the corner, half hidden by shadow, stood Mark, the dinner guest. When Daniel's flashlight beam landed on him, Mark didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He didn't even look surprised. Instead, he smiled faintly, and then bolted for the door. Police were called immediately. Within minutes, officers swept the house, but Mark was gone. For weeks, detectives searched, following tips and reviewing cameras. When they finally caught him, the truth came out. Mark wasn't a friend of a friend at all. He had a history of breaking into homes. His tactic was simple: find small social gatherings, blend in and learn everything he could. Which houses had alarms, which couples locked their doors, who was vulnerable. In some cases, His break-ins ended in theft, in others, in violence. He had been connected to a series of robberies and at least one assault. For Daniel and Laura, the realization was chilling. They had invited danger inside, fed it, laughed with it, and let it roam freely in their home. In the days that followed, the Thompson home no longer felt like home. Laura checked the locks 3, sometimes 4 times before bed. Daniel installed cameras and reinforced doors. But no amount of security could erase the memory of that night. The dining table, once a place of comfort and laughter, now carried a darker association. Whenever Laura looked at the seat where Mark had sat, she remembered the smile in the shadows and the knowledge that they had come within seconds of something far worse. The case became a reminder for investigators too, that danger doesn't always come crashing through windows. Sometimes it walks in through the front door. Sometimes it sits politely at your table. And sometimes the most dangerous person in your house is the one you invited inside.